Thank you, sir. The village elders, residents of Momi village, Director Heritage, committee members, and the Secretary from the Parliament. Very good morning to you all. On behalf of the Speaker, Secretary General to the Parliament, and the committee, I'd like to actually welcome all of you who have actually availed yourself for this very special gathering this morning. As you might have actually seen on our Facebook page as well as on Walesi platform, that we have been going around collecting submissions with regards to the Heritage Bill. And we believe Momi is one of those places where we have Gun Batteries Airport, so basically known as Momi Battery Historical Site. So we thought to actually visit this particular site, and it was very important for us to actually come to this particular village and collect submission, as this is one of the national heritage sites, which is, I basically believe, managed by National Trust of Fiji. So what we will do this morning is, I'll hand over to Honorable Moses Bulitabu to explain about the bill itself, what the Heritage Bill is all about. But before that, I'll actually give a chance to Honorable Dr. Sadiq to take us through the process as to how this bill was passed on to Justice, Law and Human Rights Committee, and what we have done till to date in terms of public consultation. And then we will actually go into proper about the deliberation of the Heritage Bill, and Honorable Bulitabu shall actually explain that. So before we actually hand over the mic to Honorable Bulitabu, I now give the floor to Honorable Dr. Sadiq Govind to explain the process as to how our bill is actually passed on to our committee and how our bill becomes an act in the Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the Justice, Law and Human Rights Committee. This morning we are very privileged to be in the village of Momi, Nandonga and Nabosa. We are very happy to be here and meet with the village elders, Prime Nikoro, and everyone present here this morning. And as you know that whenever law is drafted or law is enacted in the Parliament of Fiji, before that the law is in a draft stage and it is called a bill. So that bill is presented to Parliament in the form of a draft law, and once it's presented into the Parliament, the bill is referred to the standing committee, one of the standing committees. And in Parliament there are 6 standing committees, and Justice, Law and Human Rights, this committee is one of the very important committees which deals with most of the laws before it is enacted as an act. So this particular bill, Heritage Bill, was handed to the Justice, Law and Human Rights Committee. And once the bill is handed to the committee, it is our duty to go around Fiji and meet with the public and people from all aspects, rural and central areas, and collect submissions on the bill. And after submission, we deliberate on the submission, and if there is any need to change the draft bill, any of the clauses, the committee then changes that and recommends back to Parliament. So this particular bill is the Heritage Bill, and this has to do with historic sites, any site which has cultural value or historic value in terms of physical structures or in terms of our culture. And that's why we are here this morning, because one of your sites, on the hill, the gun battery, is listed under the heritage site. So we are here and we'll be discussing with you and then visiting the site. And if there are any permission from you, we'll listen to that, and then we'll deliberate on that when we send it to work. And we have done that to almost many other sites in Viti Lebu, in Banua Lebu, and Lebuka. Lebuka is the only heritage site which is listed on the World Heritage listing for a time being. And so after this, we will then present to the Parliament in the March sitting of Parliament. So with this, I give it to our chair and then to Honorable Tabu to explain to you in your Itoke language the details of the bill before you can comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Govin. Now I shall give the floor to Honorable Tabu to take us through the bill in Itoke language. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Satu salah nomor waktu rawat tempat bawah. Kena itu wai batawa kalau mani kena liu dua berdua. Itu na learning tu bono waktu orang dalam waktu orang kau Momi. Turang kena merah. Berarti kena kesah. Sa kamaru tadi begitu yang kena dalam mani itu waktu orang kau. Sabab kena ada itu na wasit lebih tinggal lebih kita baru kita. Dan lawan yang boleh cuma nonton paling. Lawan yang boleh cuma lawan cuma ngambil nonton paling. Kelani paling itu kulit kita lawan. Ini nonton pemuda balik pun serama. Sebenarnya kita mengolik dan kita mengenal tingkat membikin ini dalam benua. Kita memilih kulit lawan, membawa tiket dalam benua ini. Tempat orang telanga kita kena diri bagi nonton benua. Kwento na kaya na wale-wale. Berni pula lawa beli bandita ki misal lawa bandita ki na matintu. Itu tu na lawa betul. Na lawa betul itu kau tu cuma mengko. Kau tu cuma ini na hukum ni ada lagi na heritage bill. Sen na lawa betul na kaya na marway lebu na bi yang bulan kaya na beka. Inda mamarang kita itu na kaya na itang lawa. Kitulis cuma ibu lebu. Lebih bono yang tua tambah itu tahu cara main antara mai uling kalau mana tayang mau dia itu sikobot ko na bidan na biko maroi mai waisali memang kata lagi na kita mai to kay nahuan na bidan siya saud itu mai reda to kana geri ka rainforest reserve kata lagi na itu mai to kay na binu ko mai siya to na mana sindius. Engkau begitu berbisi pada dapat terkai. Dalam nanti tiga waktu orang ibu. Kelan sa baru itu orang mana kau beratu na tempat trust national trust of Fiji. Dan itu mereka juga nak kena maroi, tak kena mereka waktu juga nak berkata. Dalam apa tu kita foto cuma yang kami kira meruat kena nomor oleh benua kena nomor bahasa. Yang buat itu cuma yang tu nak bela latih ke berumur. Nama tempat sini berumuran UNESCO. Toko kina itu ada World Heritage Convention. Sana lawan liu ni matin tu ni berumur. Bau dan matin tu tahu apa? Sana ini Indonesia. Main matin tu ni disangkai lagi tu berana. Matin tu yang lagi tinggal. Misal lewat talaga ni bela latiko. Sebau dia bela latiko. Sa kamay biti. Sangkai mai sangai me roni bang maten tu tegi bit sen do tu na domestikis na roni mai wakai ngata ki kina lawa me tu na lawa ibit me pul me sia mai na lawa le ni pura-pura ko ki tu ko tu mai ko ka na lawa e bang tu ri ko me bang ta mori kina si tau yang mutai kina ento na mata bosi me kana to kana heritage council ibit. Berada di baru rugi kita na bi matapos tali so kena bi so nanti guna mana ko para maroya karena di bawah cukup main na bi heritage site ko. Tahu na ini teman ibuli kena heritage tahu na kena turang director turang sarni logo di mayo lah. Wantal kaki na kena baru rugi na balik bola-bola di mati tunggu baru tahu na National Trust of Fiji, berarti kena beri bolong kena juga untuk tu karawa tu rei tu na kena rei tu kena ripotita ke maroi lebih kakek sa ingangandi sarana bono sar bonua ra tu le bora ria la komoi na rei kira na itu tu ke maroi ko tu kira na be kai na kilaitai tu kira no tu bonua kira be bonua tu tu la kira be matakani yang pulau da rei tra la batu ko gora kira ba rorotai merawani satu kita na council mesual kina na kuku meran rabaka tuta kina World Heritage Council sa Oka sa World Heritage itu na yung pulau mako wana ko sa tawag ito na National Heritage nakar sa waro ito ba kina na vida turun bakar to sa kina nung chungo merto ba tututan itu ang ibiti na banu ay Sigatoka sa World Heritage ya kalau manitaw ni may lebu ka yung law kaya sa wili to ka may World Heritage. Katuka kina na laway mo na nabuno ito kina korma ka kibiti libuni tanlo na buni na bulutu ida itu bang ni vale na kawar sa tarakin na vale na mona sa ngay marroy na biti kina kaya baleta itu kina ito na itu kumbulo kina ito na talano na sa mati kendalista na mona tibutek kina kina pamati tutek yuri matal nga kino kina to Nilo mo ni tigo boy mo. Kaya ni tigo na itaw loan pala na nondo to site ko Momi na bubuni. Ay dami ni sa na dami na kay bonua. Kapata laki na woni baluliw. Kaya may bakay ng taki. Na bimbi to ba ni tulu. Kaya to kaya ang rabo to kaya na waswas. Kaya nagtako magitigo biti. Bimbi na sa sawara. Ikun si komputi man na may karamo ni baluliw na. Non ray na may to kay mo. Para ni doon makatok na iduruto kuwa. Yo yan na bekake de ebauto tu na lawali huko kamata laki na gaitu na mona takomaki. Berani mahrui kira na itu tu dong. Nanti kita lagi na nondaita. Na benua kira mati tu mentara tu ba ka kamarwa. Na biyo tu dong kartu satu na kapalitas. Kelana biti kina iso pada kai ba kana libur taru cuma na bayang apa wali bikian. Kaya sana kay bawa matala kina turun direkta. Ina kaya na fantek itu ko may na wake up na project ya. Karena matala kina sema juga. Weekend na leo di bonua kina koro. Meredi juga kina no to rawa ni bakila tala kina ibaya. Kina leo ko. Kina lo di bonua. Bawa kina lo to kina di bonua. Yang kena lawa bawa tu rekod kumai kita dengar orang tahu kan kena kata malam pun nirai kena buku ni BK wala kami pelet tanah yang pulang mo kepada laki dan kena semat juga tempat di sana berdua. Tapi itu pun total juga main total kena terlilau. Kalau total kan apa kena economy and investment. Yo ya na tikina keda. Ego di batu-batu yang lawa batu ni ko. Ka rendrim. Begitu merong katakan untuk muni bilang beka sama talaga kina na beka ke merani baga binakata kina na kina tako marului kartu satu orang kena balas les teman iso na tago atang lesar bago na buli bonua bitalo tayo na mo betli kulang to masusu bitalo tayo kake ngitiu sa kanala mo ngitiu watu na ito mo na kina lutu na les ba bosi ba di batawa kita kumina liuno tu korbatura. Mungkin dalam waktu kita nabi bosan ini kuah. Dan lawan tak tu lawan waktu itu kita tu main dalam liuni bosan lawan kena komit. Kena liuli tu dalam rupanya liuli maraj. Nanti kita dalam bosan lawan itu liuli komit itu ni pulau lawan tak apa ni sebahasa.
Thank you, Honorable Litam, for explaining the bill and what are some of the components and parts of the bill and how it is going to actually affect the Momi historical site if it becomes a potential World Heritage site as well. So now the floor is open. If you have any clarification or if you want to make any suggestion or have any input with regards to any particular clause of the bill, so this is the time to do so. So any questions?
Yung nataro ulit ng sikot. Balik siya na rin na kayo ko ng gusto. Nakalugtibat mo. Yung nga ko to na matan nabiloy kong kama. Masyan bawa ng maraba. Yung na kamarurulyo ulit rin na kayo na pabalik na panilurado. Hilangan ng kutroke, may buka. Oh, niya kan tara ko rin na kayo. Kuya malim ko ka. Maroon siya na Little Beach. Dahil-dahil niwang ka ko nung puti makita ito. Kaya maruroy ng katagumat. Ano ko tarang ahlit ko rarapoy mo. Natamrin tarakilan ako ito oliwang kahamang ito ang magalama. Kakyali.
Please feel free to ask anything. Once we get the first question and then the question starts flowing.
My name is Sunya from Nabila Village. My question is part 7, funds for Fiji heritage. As for the Momi site, the product was developed in 2018. The new research center was opened in 2018. If you go in that new research center, you have information A to Z from World War I to World War II. And all you have in the memories, pictures relating to the Momi site. Now you have only 6 structures that is in the National Trust that has released there. The rest are outside, and you see pictures of barracks and other sites that were established right up to the Nandi Airport. I worked at the Momi site for 13 years, and I retired in 2018 after the new research center was opened. My question is, for the development of the products that you have for your World Heritage listing, are there funds available that can help you to submit all those? Is there any other things that you can develop apart from what we have at the Momi Business Center now, the Momi Business Center? And do you have funds available if you want to develop those products apart from what you have now available at the government at this stage? Naka.
Thank you very much for the particular question, sir. As far as the funds are concerned, there are 2 parts that we're talking about the funds. One is part 3, which talks about the funds of the council, and then we have part 7, which talks about the funds of the Fiji heritage. So what basically happens is all these heritage sites, whether at national level or at international level, those that are actually recognized as national heritage and those that will be recognized as the potential World Heritage Sites and actual ones that are actually listed under the World Heritage Site. So there is one that is actually at the moment listed, which is Sigatoka town. There are 3 potential listings which are basically sand dunes. The other one happens to be the Yandua Tamba, and the third one is Sobi Basin. So these three are the potential ones. So once this bill actually becomes an act, there will be management committees formed for each of these sites. I believe including national heritage sites as well. So there will be actually management committee which will actually put in recommendation to the Fiji Heritage Council. So Fiji Heritage Council will actually have funds, because once this bill actually becomes an act, then UNESCO will start actually giving in funds. This is the last piece of the puzzle of the 1972 convention that Fiji is a party to, that was ratified and signed in 1990. So having that in mind, once we actually do this particular bill and it becomes an act, so we have actually domesticated the convention itself. So that will, this bill will actually dictate how the funds are going to be utilized, how the trust funds are going to be formed, how they are going to be used for operational purpose and maintenance and preservation of the places that are there. Now, for example, if anything that you want to do in terms of any of the sites, and if it actually falls within the buffer zone, you actually have to do go through the proper process. Nothing is actually stopping. For example, if you want to, let's say, build something else nearby, like for example, tourists coming to see and you want to build a hotel, right? All you need to do is you need to actually follow the process. An application needs to go through, right, to town and country planning, through the local government. They will actually get in consultation with the Fiji Heritage Council as well as Department of Heritage. And if approval is given, you can actually do so. In terms of, this is something that we were actually discussing when we actually at Kuru Kuru about the floating island. That's one of the unique places as well. And the landowning units actually did inform us that they would actually like to advertise that particular place as well with Investment Fiji. So Investment Fiji will actually try to promote that particular place as an investment. So if any foreign investor or local investor wants to get in partners with the landowning unit, right, they can actually collaborate together, follow the due process. Once the approval is given, and they can actually develop the particular places. Similar thing can actually happen to Momi Bay as well. If there is any development in terms of the heritage site itself, right, then the fundings are available there, right, to actually maintain and preserve those places. Any kind of new development that wants to take place in conjunction with the heritage site, just like I said, for example, a hotel, there is no funding to actually build a hotel. But then we can actually look for potential investors to actually come and invest in that particular area. Hope that clarifies.
I've also witnessed that if we're standing from the gun site on the opposite side of the road, we have these range finders. And a friend of mine who lives nearby in our Indian community has leased this piece of land, and they've demolished all those foundations that we have up there. And usually when you go up, when you're picking up tours to the gun site, you explain there's the rangefinder, there's the radar station, and all those. I personally don't want to see all those being demolished, otherwise this is nothing to explain apart from what you have at the business center. What can the government do about that?
That was the Matangali land? That was,
yes, sir.
yeah. So unfortunately, that is something that is between the landowning unit and the tenant. If they have actually leased it out, right? But even before actually leasing it out, if they would have actually allocated that area to Fiji National Trust, then we could have actually preserved those areas, right? Like for example, government very much wants to actually preserve these areas. Like what you are saying, we do actually understand, like there were barracks and all those, right? So it would have been a more historic site if we could have actually preserved those areas as well and not just the Momi battery site. So unfortunately it's done, we cannot undo it, right? But if there is any other sites, like for example when this bill actually becomes an act, then the landowning unit, they can actually write to Fiji Heritage Council, maybe to actually increase the buffer zone, so that all these historic places that is associated with the major gun battery site can be actually incorporated and nobody can actually have the access to come and demolish it. Unfortunately, I cannot actually comment on the demolition that has taken place because unfortunately, like that was a proper list actually allocated to someone who actually did that. So in the first place, that should not have taken place, but we cannot untain it. But like for example, if not the actual structure, but if somebody wants to like, let's say for example, make a structure just to actually portray that particular structure was there within the zone that is actually protected, then actually like a process can be followed and there could be some funding to actually develop that place again. Yeah. Not at the actual site because it has been leased to somebody else. For that to actually happen, that's a very long process. I'm sure you guys must be aware. I actually have to go back to TLTB and then surrender that piece of land and then apply for a new lease, and then that lease actually goes to Fiji National Trust and then it can be preserved. And it's a very lengthy process. But let's say just a false structure to actually demonstrate that it was there within the zone, that is something that can be looked into in the future. Any other question?
How can the community benefit apart from employment in Momi side?
Okay, as far as how the community would benefit, I actually give it to Honorable Bolitamu. Yesterday the same question was raised with regards to sand dunes. So I believe we can actually explain on that.
Nabaleo ni usana na taruna klau cha satu pada turun direkta watan ngaki na kamo turun reu ni sana cukup ya karena soli itu betul sa cikuti na lomani bikai uni na bikai uno pelten na kena kawan ibaya na ramai ini kita minta kai ko yang rawa to kana dulu ko yang mula.
Naga sana ko na turang ng chairman ni steering committee na matambon sekarang na berjuang ko baru na kuamin Malaysia na kaya nakuha na daw ni Lambay na kaya ilikyo lang kay na in World Heritage Site, kung nagkirpan ko ito na Bunjumo, Pedila, narewa ni Vivo kaya na kaya bago rin na muli, nagkirpato rin kasi na manuning harap-harap ko Momi, Tikarua, narewa ni Vivo kaya na matabong tiburong rin na UNESCO World Heritage Committee na kalau nabuli nakya binata kina
na wano ni hara-hara na tantala ng dakay. Kung di kakarua, kakatolo, na dewa ni ibibukin mo ni na namatay juwa, na kaya huli ko na ikuarabi na jawa binata tinawel, gini na nabikuan balik siya na tantala ng dakay na Momi sa kayo. Nga.
Bagi bakut tu na mata itu na bagi tanda-tanda pe nawa na tai na tarwa kama tu na no te rai hilang na bibu ke hilang na pi sire ni wai kam ni ma me baca na jarara na bibu ke na ra rem sire taran ni baca na ni walang ko na ko ni world organization tarwa rai na
Hindi nakakontakti apa masalah tak kena kena cerita chairman, nangaune na lawa curi ko nangaune na niya kenal lawan niya na eno koto ina pinakatan panok ko na bibu kemi Malaysia na tiang wara na banoto ko ke na biu ne hara-hara na World Heritage site. Ako na no ke na trust fund. Wani na bibuke na ya na kiyang wara na ko Malaysia na World Heritage Site na iwan mo ako nilista niya na World Heritage Site. Nangono ko o Momi hino ko to na sa bawala na tentative listing. Manya pemarating na curang macam mana hilangan oleh koto ina World Heritage Site oleh buka tolu ina ko tinaya ina cuma menagai bola ina ko Momi karo yang dotan pagenya solution ono kuna tolu ina ngai undak kinu mena matang cuma menagai bola ini bahita oni ngana hilawar tolu menagai bola inakiawi buke na rarang dinya na tanda ni takai na boni harara ino kotoka kalau na lawa curio lekin kita real ino kotoka ina tambah itu ina factory accounting finance gini na trust fund ilo tale kay wala no putin na lawa chulo ng ko tumutima kalir na taro reniwanan ronga bamba no ko to kondum taro dari ni hawya panjaw ko to na aku buti bina
Mas, hindi ko marami ng lumalang na turang dyan. Lah.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the Standing Committee for Justice, Law and Human Rights. Just translating the questions that were mentioned earlier on. The first one was based on the benefits of the listing of Momi gun site as a tentative list. The second was a question on the benefits. of the listing to the village. And those are the two questions.
Explained by Mr. Wernicke, I would like to mention in this sitting that if that can be regulated, if this X pass, so that something could come to the benefits will come to the community too. Please.
Definitely, sir. The director is here from Department of Heritage, so he takes note of it. Because definitely once this bill actually becomes an act, they will actually come back to the community, explaining all the effects and the pros and cons of the bill itself, so that any decision that is made can be made as an informed decision. So we'll leave that to the director and his team to actually advocate on the act once this bill is passed. Thank you, sir. Any other question?
Yo, wani na nungu kere. Oya wani na nungu kere. Iba bina vale unang watani kuwa na nungu kita mokeng nungu la mai koto. Itu kuni bator ka kita kembali jalan takai di bawah. Iba bina vale buarake. Nanda kaini vanua na kwenda dolu na tarake na kara na kora numia na ni vanua ya hila buto ane bukere ya lo bina na matari tu bukutara buto ko na vale bina me highway ya tara buto ko me vai na bila ya daga mundu na baba lang yaran daw la mo kimir yara tang daw harap bina balik na vale bimbu Metara bila na vale tu bibi boy sakini na kembali jalan dakai. Cuma bila vale puna patani. Na highway setelah biar etara buka ho me vape na dakai o kami nambia. Ia me kono me lai mundu. Me kono lai mundu da mutu. Ande itu korona carvano programa. Carvano pe ngalan ruak tu. Tapi harap dia ko na dakai. Kere potongan. Piano bina tara motor na vale. Na tani tu tara motor na vale. Me pina na vale, na maramun nga raro na papalang, o kung lang may harap o pinadakay. Kelly.
Thank you, sir. I believe you are talking about the road leading to the site. We do take note of that and will relay it to the relevant authorities and to FRE to look into it. Inaka.
Mr. Chair, just want to elaborate more on what are the benefits to the community.
Sure, sir.
Kita tu na negolo tambah hilangan paling ibis di state ko dan na heritage system lebuk. Jadi itu tu kita boleh legal site to Subibe na kita kena ulis no ni tadas na ron nakakilay ni ano pa yung kung nando di kata gini na because na wabukin harabian na cuma makawar na nalambat ang tapat any World Heritage Listing in Fiji debuka mo iba mo na kaya makita tayo mo mita bulam na do harapan orang binasya. Namun ko may cuba mo ni na turaray mo minabila. Tangin na lista ki ho Momi kan say nada ichira ni cuba niya lang cuba bimen. May benefit ka bagim to na Momi kan say. Nadali ba na tara? Pagdakin na lista ki ho di o Momi kan say din na World Heritage. Natar nadali. Nadali cuba kimto cuba jadi ni kota-kota ini jika rita di holim o Momi kan saya di World Heritage System. Namun saya dari holim itu ni Purna lucu sekilan rawele, kita tuh cipang boleh. Itu kami cihuli lihi buat bola karena memikan saya itu. Kita kira lucu boleh nak bola kau tuh dia tuh dengan lucu malu jauh pun memang saya lucu. Malah lucu coba taruh ya. Lucu lagi di foto-foto mungkin nabi kuara aku mau kuri siliba. Berapa bisa berlalu lucu karena memikan saya itu boleh.
Any other question? Okay, so
Untuk buah yang murah juga menghitirana juga melai buah. Tapi buah kembang payah buah kembang payah. Nah, tu buah itu bina tu nama kaham oleh mutu bakal mutu payah berino. Yang murah dari merah tu kami buah kan. Biar yang laho. Kalau nak kau beli bukan apa juga lagi.
Halo. Ya, ni turuan dia udah sangat taruh. Baru nakal sudah tak kacau nak tawalengo. Indoleng anak kau dia taruh ane mata tabi rana ciumgo. Warna historik site kue ciukin apa lintakai. Kue surtale nakian baku cigo rana lebih kuyabi cigo naluman iwan wangu kue ciukin nala wangu. Na historik site. Sing mata cigo gitu mantan tabi ciumgo. Ya pemagal cigo tawalengo, pemagal cigo balai. Ya sobi minggu kami bisa diwakili na kaya nakubuta kali ngamay na so nabuna ni Bandon to rai ichiwi raki so ichigo sarai wai napataba man na rapani wan wendu kubuta mai seba bona valnivina ko valnivina nanti na ya na rapani wan wa tabu menduana katale me bao susua kaya kasa bona valnivina ko se tabu menduana na dina me takosoba me sarai wai kon sinmadala na kan watalengana valindakai se ranikanga me pangaya natar moto ke merah kilawirana ni mamlelikor no.
The Honorable Chair also translated and probably the staff from National Trust of Fiji will explain on the details. The question, Honorable Chair, is that given what they know is the historic site, is where the gun site is, but there are other historic sites outside of the boundary, which contains the barracks, where they do the recon check. And there's another one, we've got a lighthouse here, but the rules that to apply to the lighthouse, that no other activity to be done closer to the area. And the concern is once you are demarcating the boundary, that will be part of this national heritage, whether it will cover all those sites or only the gun site. And they would like to have some clarity on it. You know.
Yo, Winako. So di mana National Trust. I'll just try and explain a bit in Fijian. Nangona ako lagi making na may maruro na takay di bono. Siya na bono may dala na luto na dili mo. Ang biyo nga may na bono ako actually with the National Trust. Isang gala tinawa dindik kay Mur. Ang kay Loray ni siya nga ni bono nga kay Bibi kono bibi tondo baka ya sengal banyo ko ana buna tiko na bono ko sema tsuja di bono soko tu lo de cuma bono tapi kita ya na vina bono ratu kita na sotia ya ke bandiki bimu ini le kale buta ke me vira bono de lo na rai na ba ka me do watu tu te tana le be ni lawa tu me to me va di te ni na lawa na ngona watu tu te ki na ndo na wanwa me marroi orto na watu tu ta ka mer to wili ka pata ke na wanwa ke de ko serva be na wanwa watu tu seme na vade taki osni torra baka ndro na ramba ni lewa na torra tikini na bafa na bafa zoom ya na bonwa so ko maroro ni baleta na totu bani ni bonwa ko watu tu taki na maroro ya ina samba ni li bafa ke Jika tali sora bonwa totu ka do ni Israel na lo ni watatabu ila I guess honorable committee members they're asking about the associated structures that are outside of the protected area, outside of the historical site. If it can be also be preserved. And I guess it's the same as the other historical sites that they're trying to protect, heritage sites. When it's been proposed or nominated for protection, I think it should be clear in the bill or in the act that what's been nominated is covers everything, the site itself and the associated structures, if there are any, that needs to be protected. And like some of these sites we just found out later on that they are part of the whole Momi battery. And it goes right to the coast. It goes beyond this village. There are barracks all around this area, but we are only protecting them with the guns. It might go for the sand dunes, and I'm not sure whether they are also part of it. There's the sand dunes that's protected, but part of the dunes is owned by another family. The other side of the dunes is owned by Matangali, who are extracting already. That's the whole system of the sandals.
Thank you, sir, for that clarification. In very simple terms, I believe we are actually talking to the Matangali who actually own that particular space, right? It's basically you guys. Anything that is not protected in the moment that lies outside the protected zone, there is a process. Please write to, at the moment, the National Trust, or once this bill becomes an act, please write to the Fiji Heritage Council. Surrender that piece of land to Fiji Heritage Council or Fiji National Trust, and as soon as it comes under us, we will actually start protecting it. At the moment, it doesn't fall under our jurisdiction. In order to actually for us to step in and preserve those areas, whatever areas people are talking about, right? There's a process that needs to be followed. If you people nominate all those like buildings and structures to Fiji National Trust or Fiji Heritage Council, we will start protecting them. But 60% of the landowning units, they need to actually agree to give that piece of land to the Fiji National Trust or Fiji Heritage Council, and we will actually start protecting as we are actually protecting the battery site. Maybe it was missed on that first time that actually these things were done, but if there are any historic sites, you people can always actually write to the Fiji Heritage Council. We don't have any issue actually protecting and preserving those areas. Hope that clarifies.
Terus sabi yung mata to ha.
Iya.
Iya. Uklan dami takay ko wala ko sumaro ito dito na isang drastic. Sa ito sura ko sampai pampasi ko talaga kumain na pare. Na bulan di ba ito ray na sotal lawan wa ratau ke na sutia. Dan dalam dunia dulu kan saya mana tahu logo sun satu itu lem boy na ulang. Na bulan ito kan kinor takay. Ni tiga mata ko lagi. Pagka na tiga ni afo sa Sarman International Airport mainan. Masa anak ko bukan itu. Minta lawan tu. Indonesia mai cuy. Itu plan hotel na site itu ko dito ke national historical site. Yang sama matal tatu orang cia. Sa cuma kena proses. Mungkin apply itu. Pero ko ko tinga bitung tu kinken. Dengan driving aki na lang tu konsen kono sa pula pasien. Pero disun. Sindo na kaya na tu. Jadi saya itu ramai terus. Karena mereka kita bina pengatur ramai apalagi dengan kena nangkil. Na mengangan dengan lagi itu kini. Sindo na kuku itu cuma mati tu mengenai literai dengan kuku. Tidak siapa ni.
Mr. Chairman, sir, what all these years have been bothering me is that like when you used to take tourists up there, they would ask, how do you set your targets with those guns? And during your explanation, you said, usually they have 2 rangefinders and 1 radar station. Usually they set it in a triangular, so they do triangulation, so that they can have the accurate distance and the accurate direction of the target. So if one of those goes off, how are you going to explain it? No. Those radio stations, they are still there. What I mentioned before was one of the gun emplacement that they have demolished. The radio station is still there, but I would like to see somebody taking that out in future.
So maybe Department of Heritage and National Trust, once this bill actually becomes a net, have a public consultation with the landowners. Yeah, and we can actually review the buffer zone and the protected area itself for this battery sites. Let's say so. The Department and National Trust they will actually come over to have another public consultation. But we totally agree with what you are saying. If we need to preserve, we need to preserve the whole area, yeah, so that we can actually, give a good narration as to how that particular site used to operate. Yeah. But even for those areas to be protected, the same process has to be followed. 60% of the landowning units actually have to give the consent for us to actually start preserving that piece of land. Any other question?
Once the bill pass, National Heritage will come back to the landowner and then to the agreement about any benefit for the village.
Yes, definitely. Department of Heritage and Fiji National Trust, they will actually come back to advocate on the bill itself. What are some of the benefits? What are some of the trainings that can be provided? What are some of the opportunities? So they will come and discuss that. Anything else? Any last question? If not, then we take it that everyone is happy with this particular bill and it can be endorsed in the Parliament for the betterment and preservation of all these historic sites that we have around Fiji. So thank you for your support towards the bill. Now I shall actually hand it over to Honorable Rohit Sharma to thank everyone and wrap up today's session before we actually go for the site visitation.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Standing Committee on Justice, Law and Human Rights, I would like to thank each and everyone this morning for your submission. And on behalf of this committee, special thanks goes to the Chief Vanua Tohoni Bono, and also to the Ministry of Education, also to the Assistant Rocco, I heard that he's here also, and also to the Parliament staff, and all other people who have contributed this morning on this very special bill. Thank you very much, and Vinaka Pakalevu to you all, and hope to see you again after the bill is passed. Thank you very much.